Good evening to one and all. Good evening to all the seniors, friends, and participants. I sincerely welcome one and all on behalf of our team Legal Speak webinar. I welcome Mr. Subhash Chandran, advocate at High Court as well as the Coimbatore courts, who is going to present today the topic on if there is a will, there is a litigation. So belongs to Coimbatore. He completed his degree BCom in Salem, Vellore, and he has completed BL in Coimbatore. Also, he has completed MBA in Annamalai University. He has started his practice as a company lawyer in so many companies. At last, after completion of 20 years service, he has retired. He has voluntarily retired from Vice President at Food Industries Limited at Coimbatore, and he started. Sir, also he has started. Sir, all are please kindly mute phone as well as the video, sir. Audio and video kindly please mute, sir. Yes, yes. Started his practice in 1997 and started his practice with our senior sir, and he has completed 2-3 years. Afterwards, he has shifted to Coimbatore. Now he is previously he still is assisting only to senior, our senior only. He is started with his career as a state sales tax, central excise, customs, on other things, and he has practiced in all the fields. Now today he is going to take a special case of will issue. He belongs to Kohoi. Today is a special day for him because his famous Mr. K. Kamaraj's birthday. So he is a follower of Mr. Kamaraj. So in his special day, let him start his speech and he can continue his president. So over to Mr. Subhashji.
Good evening, everybody. Today's topic, there is a will, there is a way. That is the old, yeah, that is the old proverb is if there is a will, there is a way. But the new proverb, what I coined based on the experience being faced in the courts, it is apt to say if there is a will, there is a litigation. Because by large, the will and the litigation go hand in glove, as well as they are becoming inseparable. That is maybe the reason that the will properly may not be drafted or other so many circumstances it is there. So I thought it is necessary even for the common man to understand what is a will and its implications. Hence I selected this topic and I am now addressing on the point of will. Now, what is a will? That has been defined in section 2H of the Indian Succession Act. Just I will read the provision. Will means the legal declaration of the intention of a testator with respect to his property, which he desires to be carried into effect after his death. It simply means it is a legal document that set forth his wishes. What is going to happen? What should happen after his death for the properties, what he is holding? Simple. தன் இறப்புக்கு பின்னாடி தன் சொத்துக்கள் எப்படி பிரிக்கணும் அல்லது பரிபாலனம் செய்கிற அவருடைய விருப்பத்தை சொல்லக்கூடிய ஒரு ஆவணமே உயிலாகும். Now, who can execute the will? So the next question comes is, who can execute the will? As per section 59 of the Indian Succession Act, every person of sound mind, not being a minor, may dispose of his property by will. It means that anybody can execute the will, but he should not be a minor. That is the only disqualification made. But the following explanations and provisions, illustrations, they give some further restrictions for the execution of the will. That is, a person who is not able to understand what is happening around him. That may be due to intoxication or illness or maybe any other ground, because of which, if he is not able to understand, then he is not entitled to execute any will. If he executes, it is an invalid will. The deaf, dumb, and blind, they are not disqualified because of their disabilities, but they can also execute the will provided they understand what they do by it. That means one will be surprised how a blind can execute a will. Yes, he can execute a will by following the process of law. So as per section 59, who can execute the will? Every person of sound mind, not being a minor, may dispose of his property by will. That is, if he is a minor, he is disqualified from executing a will. Other persons who are of sound mind, the basic requirement is he should be of a sound mind for executing a will. In this, the deaf, dumb, or blind, they are not incapacitated merely by virtue of their being handicapped. They are also entitled to execute the will provided they understand what they do by their act. Next thing is, a person who is ordinarily insane, but he becomes of sound mind during lucid intervals. In those periods, if he is writing the will, it is a valid will. It is not, it cannot be held as invalid, because during the lucid interval only person becomes insane. If it is the reverse case, in the lucid interval, if he becomes sane, then the will executed by him is a valid will. A person who is not able to understand what is happening around him due to the state of mind because of intoxication or illness or maybe any other reason, if he is not able to understand, then the will executed by is not a valid will, it is an invalid will. A person who is terminally ill can also execute the will provided he is of sound mind and if he is able to understand the disposition, what is being made, where he is signing this. Because he is terminally ill, it is not a disqualification, provided he is able to understand. படுத்த படிக்கா இருக்கிறாருங்கிற ஒரே காரணத்துக்காக அவர் வில்லில் செல்லாதுன்னாங்க. அவருக்கு அவர் என்ன செய்யறங்கிறது புரிஞ்சுது, சவுண்ட் மைண்ட்ல இருக்கிறாரு, ஆனா உடம்பு மட்டும் தான் சரியில்லை, the will executed by him is a valid will. So these circumstances are the thing. It says that who can execute the will. So what is the format of the will? The law does not prescribe any format for making the will, and there is no necessity that any technical words are to be used in the will. What is the requirement is, from the will, you should be able to understand the intention of the testator. The will should speak out the intention of the testator. If the will is speaking the intention of the testator, then it is sufficient. No specific format is given. It can be of anything. Then what is the effect of the will? See, the will changes the normal rule of succession. See, the normal rule of succession is based on the respective succession acts, the Hindu Succession Act or the Indian Succession Act. But the will gives a go-by to that, and it breaks the normal rule of succession or changes the normal rule of succession. Next, what is the types of the wills? As per section 63 and 65, only there are two types of wills. One is privileged wills, the other is unprivileged wills. A soldier employed in an expedition or engaged in the actual warfare, or an airman so employed or engaged, or a mariner at sea. These people, if they are executing, that is coming under the privileged wills category. All people, everybody other than these people, that is other than the soldier or an airman engaged in the expedition or warfare, or a mariner at sea, other than these people, they are coming under the section 63 regarding the execution of the will. Now, what does section 63 say about the execution? How a will is to be executed has been spelled out in section 63 of the Indian Succession Act. It says, every testator not being a soldier employed in expedition or engaged in actual warfare, or airmen so employed or engaged, or a mariner at sea, shall execute his will according to the following rules. The will is to be executed as per the rules specified in section 63. There are 3 rules, A, B, and C, which prescribes the mode of execution. A, the testator shall sign the will, sign or shall affix his mark to the will, or it shall be signed by some other person in his presence and by his direction. That is, he himself has to sign the will or affix his mark to the will, or there may be some persons who may not be able to sign or affix the mark on this. For those persons, the will can be executed or signed by some other person, but that should be under his direction and in the presence of the testator. If that is done, then it is a valid signature. Next is the signature or mark of the testator, or the signature of the person signing for him, shall be so placed that it shall appear that it was intended thereby to give effect to the writing as a will. Merely signing something somewhere does not give spell out the intention of the testator. It should be so placed that they have signed this as a will and they intended to give a effect of the will. That is why they sign this. That should be, because will ஓரத்துல சைடுல வெறும் பேப்பர்ல கைட் போட்டா பத்தாது. The will appropriate placesல it should be signed and it should be properly made on this. This is rule B. Next comes rule C. This is a very, very important aspect of execution. The will shall be attested by 2 or more witnesses, each of whom has seen the testator sign or affix his mark to the will, or has seen some other person sign the will in the presence and by the direction of the testator, or has received from the testator a personal acknowledgement of his signature or mark, or the signature of such other person. And each of the witnesses shall sign the will in the presence of the testator, but it shall not be necessary that more than one witness be present at the same time, and no particular form of attestation shall be necessary. Important is, the section says there should be 2 or more witnesses. It specifies the minimum number of witnesses, but doesn't say how many witnesses should be maximum. It can be any number of witnesses, they can attest the witness, attest the will. And the next is, they should see the testator signing the will. The will should be signed in the presence of the attesting witnesses. Then, or if they are not seen the will signed by the testator, they should get an acknowledgement from that means that we should admit that I signed this in their absence and they are required to sign this. If they are receiving an acknowledgement, that is also sufficient. And each of the witness shall sign in the presence. This is very important, that though the testator has not signed in the presence of a witness, it is mandatory that each witness should sign, attesting witness should sign in the presence of the testator. If the signature is made in the absence of a testator, then this will is a invalid will. It's not necessary that both the witnesses or all the witnesses should be present at the same time when the will is executed. Suppose the testator has asked two persons to come for attestation. One person has come and they are waiting for some time. The other is coming late. If he is receiving information that he is coming late, the testator, instead of making the person who has come to wait for a long time, he has asked him to sign. Before that, the attester signs the will in his presence, and then the first attesting witness signs and leaves the place. Thereafter, the other witness comes. Then the attester should say that I signed the witness. I mean, at a will, it is my signature. Then you can now sign. So the second witness should get an acceptance, admission that yes, the testator has signed the will. After that, he can sign it. If he is signing without getting an acknowledgement from or without receiving an acknowledgement from the testator about his signature, what was made in his absence, then it is not a valid execution in terms of section 63. The next comes whether the will is required to be registered, because some people have raised queries in my WhatsApp number. So it is not a mandatory requirement to register the will. It is optional. You don't require to be registered on this. Next is the probate of the will, because somebody also asked me to talk about the probate. So the probate of the will is spelled out in section 213, read with section 57A and B of the Indian Succession Act. As per these two provisions, only 3 places in India requires probation. That is city of Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras. If the testator is in these places or the property is situated in this, then probate is necessary. For example, A is living in Madras and the property may be outside. Even then, this will is to be probated. The other case is if he is residing outside the limit of Madras, but the property is situated in Madras. In that case also, the will is to be probated. Interestingly, in section, the relevant sections, they don't specify they don't call them this a city of Madras or city of Bombay or city of Calcutta. They put it in a different manner. For Calcutta, they say the territories which are under the subject to the jurisdiction of Lieutenant General of Bengal at the relevant time. That means at the time of the act, whatever the jurisdiction which was under the Lieutenant General of West Bengal is the place. That is actually now in the Calcutta. The other thing is, it doesn't say city of Madras or city of Bombay. It says ordinary original civil jurisdiction of the High Court of Judicature at Madras and Bombay. So it is not the city of Madras. So what is the city of Madras? In fact, there was an interesting question was raised. In this regard, Justice Nagamurthy has given a judgment. In this case, he has dealt in what is the jurisdiction limit of the Madras High Court original jurisdiction, whether it changes whenever the city limit is, I mean the corporation limit is extended by a GO issued by the government of Tamil Nadu. That was the issue before His Lordship, and he has held that it is not so by virtue of the expansion of the city by corporation limit by GO does not confer jurisdiction on the Madras High Court. Instead, there is a specific enactment which is giving power to the Madras High Court, which this one 1927 Act, as well as the extension of the jurisdiction 1985 Act. Only virtue of these two jurisdictions, I mean two enactments, the ordinary original civil jurisdiction of the Madras High Court is decided. Next takes that revocation of the will. How a will is revoked? Ordinarily, a will is revoked by the testator, either by subsequently registering a will by cancellation or changing the legatee through the second will. So through this he can, or if he is in possession of the will, if he is tearing it off or burning it off, so it is revoked. But one provision which is important is a will which is executed by an unmarried person. If he marries, the will executed by him gets revoked. It is by operation of law. That is, section 69 says if a married person, the will executed by a married person gets revoked on its marriage. The another thing is, a person has given his property to his son, but he has died during the lifetime of the testator. So what is the status of the will? The testator has not given anything or written anything in the further will. In that case, section 109 says it will devolve on the lineal descendants of the legatee, treating as if the legatee has died subsequent to the testator. There's a legal presumption which says it is subsequent to him he died. Accordingly, it is devolving on the legal heirs of the legatee. That is lineal descendants. That doesn't say legal heirs. It says lineal descent on the legatee. Next comes the proof of will. Proof of will is dealt in section 68 to 71 of the Indian Evidence Act. Section 68 says, 68 is not particularly only for will, but it is for the documents which require attestation in law. There are 3 documents which require attestation in accordance with law, in terms of law. One is a mortgage, another is a gift, the third is a will. If these 3 documents require to be proved in accordance with section 68. Now we are concerned only with the will, so we will talk about it. It says, if a document is required by law to be attested, it shall not be used as evidence until one attesting witness at least has been called for the purpose of proving its execution, if their attesting witness is alive and subject to the process of court and capable of giving evidence. There is a provision to this section. As per this provision, I'm not reading the provision, just reading the provision. As per this provision, other than the will, other documents, if it is registered, are not denied by the person who has executed it, then the attesting witness need not be summoned. But this provision is not applicable to will. The proof of will is to be only based on section 68 only. So what is the what the propounder has to prove the execution of to substantiate the execution of will by the testator? Umpteen number of judgments. I just refer to 2-3 judgments only. One is Meenakshi Ammal and others versus Chandrasekhar and another, 2005 1 SEC 280. Then Sri Devi and others versus Jayaraj Shetty and others. This is civil appeal number 3749 1999. I have no citation. It is taken under law. Yeah. Another is Giridhar Singh versus Gangotri Datta Singh, AR 1955, Supreme Court 343. Then Premavati versus Sundar Rajan, 2009 3 CTC 801, division bench. Though all these 3 judgments, in other judgments, what they say, what is the things the propounder has to prove to the satisfaction of the court in the absence of any suspicious circumstance. That is the important thing. He should prove that the testator has signed it. The signature of it is proved that testator has signed the document. Next, at the time of signing the document or executing the document, he was in a sound disposing state of mind. Merely signing a document by somebody does not get proved, but that should be proved the person who was the testator was in a sound state of mind. நல்ல மனநிலையில தெளிவா புரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டு பண்ணாருங்கிறத is to be proved. Further thing is to prove it is he understood the nature and effect of disposition and it put his signature out of his own free will. What has been being disposed should be within the knowledge of the testator and it should be on his free will and free mind, not under compulsion or coercion, something like that, or by influenced by the family members. It should be on his own free will. Next is that the testator has signed in the presence and the attesting witnesses have signed in the presence of the testator. So all these things are, that is testator வந்து வில்ல கையெழுத்து போட்டிருக்காரு, அவருக்கு வந்து சவுண்ட் ஸ்டேட் ஆஃப் மைண்ட் இருந்துச்சு, அவருக்கு அந்த வில்லில் என்ன எழுதியிருக்கு எப்படிங்கிறது தெரிஞ்சு அவர் வந்து அவருடைய சொந்த இதில் சுயமாக வந்து எழுதியிருக்கணுக்கு. அதுவும் இல்லாமல் அவரு இவங்க முன்னாடி அட்டஸ்டிங் விட்னஸஸ் முன்னாடி கையெழுத்து போட்டிருக்கணும். அட்டஸ்டிங் விட்னஸஸ் கண்டிப்பாக வந்து டெஸ்டேட்டர் முன்னாடி போட்டிருக்கணும். இது வந்து இட் இஸ் மேண்டேட்டரி. ஸோ தீஸ் ஆர் தி திங்ஸ் வாட் த ப்ரொபோண்டர் ஹேஸ் டு ப்ரூவ் to make his claim. So if there is suspicious circumstance, I said that in the absence of any suspicious circumstance, if it is sufficient, if these things are proved by the propounder and the onus of proving is discharged. But if there is suspicious circumstance, then it is the bounden duty of the propounder to clear all those doubts, and the burden is heavy on them to clear the suspicious circumstance. The courts have summarized some of the suspicious circumstance, though it is not everything has been spelled out. A few suspicious circumstances have been spelled out by the courts. The first is the signature of the testator may be very shaky or doubtful or not appear to be his usual signature. So on seeing the signature or comparing the signature with other thing, if it is seen that this is a shaky signature or it is having doubt that it cannot be his signature of the admitted one, then it is a suspicious circumstance that it should be explained by the thing. The condition of the testator's mind may be feeble. If the mind is feeble, the body is feeble, it is okay. If the mind is feeble, then it is a suspicious circumstance, because a will cannot be executed by a person, by a feeble-minded man. So that should be established that he is not having a feeble mind. Then if the dispositions are unnatural or improbable or unfair, like the exclusion of the legal heirs, or without providing adequate provisions for the legal heirs, if the will is made and excludes the legal heirs, then it is a suspicious circumstance. The disposition, if the disposition not appear that it is the free will of the mind, free will of the testator, the free mind of the testator, if it is shown that it is not due to the free will, அவருடைய சுய விருப்பத்தினால இல்லை, அவருடைய கம்பல்ஷனால தான் அதை பண்ணியிருக்கிறாரு மாதிரி இருந்ததுனா, then it is a suspicious circumstance and it cannot be a valid will on this. Another important aspect is the beneficiary is taking part in the active role in the execution of the will. If takes care, the execution itself is under his guidance or is because of his prominent role, the will was executed, then it is a very serious suspicious circumstance that is to be explained properly. And if it is, another thing is, if the testator used to sign blank papers, if that is established, he is in the habit of signing blank papers left and right, then that is also a suspicious circumstance. Another thing, if the will has not seen the light of the day for a very long time, if the will was written some 15, 20 years back, and it was not shown anywhere or not seen that, not used for anything. And suddenly when the issue comes up, if they are bringing in, that itself is a suspicious circumstance. It was a famous case in 1945, will was brought out after 30 years without having anything. So the court held, Supreme Court held, no, it is a serious lapse on this. It has not seen the light of the day. One of the grounds taken by the High Court is it is not seen the light of the day, hence it is not a valid execution of this. Further, incorrect recitals of essential facts. Some essential facts are required to prove the will. If that is, or to hold it a valid will, if that is incorrect, then that will is an invalid will and is a suspicious circumstance. Another thing aspect is the status of the attesting witness or the proximity of the attesting witness to the family. A stranger to the testator or the family, if it is shown that he has attested it, naturally a serious doubt will be raised how the stranger can come into when there are so many people around them who can attest the witness. So that is also. If the person opposing the will makes that the will has been forged or it has been made due to undue influence or coercion, etc., then it is for the other person to prove that this has happened so good. Next, proof of will is under section 69. As per section 69, if the attesting witness could not be found, either he might have died or not traceable, in that case, section 69 can be invoked, and then one of the attesting witness handwriting and the attestor's handwriting or signature should be proved by other means. Other means maybe the son or daughter or somebody or wife or something of the attesting witness. He may be brought to the box and proved that this is the signature of the attesting witness. Similarly, the testator's signature can also be proved in terms of section 69 by bringing in other evidence. So in this case, if it is, this is also a valid proof, but primary is section 68. If you are not able to prove under 68, then only 69 is available. Next comes section 70, admission of the execution by the party, that is the testator. If the testator himself makes an admission, then it is a valid proof. Suppose A has executed a will and subsequently died. During his lifetime, he has filed a suit or defended a suit in which he has specifically stated about the execution of this will, then it is an admission by the testator. Or if a person is giving a dying declaration, the son has attacked him because he has not given the property to him. The dying declaration taken down by the magistrate, in which if the testator had explained the circumstances and reasons, or that he has spelled out about the will during the dying declaration, it is also proof under section 70. But whether section 70 is independent of section 68, by mere acknowledgement itself is sufficient to take it as a proof, or it is in addition to 68 or failure of 68. This is a question to be debated on. Next comes the section 71. Suppose the propounder of the will brings the witness to the box, attesting witness to the box, and if he denies or if he does not recollect the execution, then the propounder of the will may prove it by other evidence. For example, there are two witnesses, one is died. Another witness available has come to the box and says, no, I could not recollect whether this will was signed by the testator in my presence or the other witness signed by in presence. In that case, it doesn't get proved by section 68. So the second witness is also not available. They could not able to establish any connection with the thing. In that case, if there is a scribe, if he has signed it, then the scribe can be brought in, and if he is speaking for the procedure, what has been made during the at the time of execution, if he is able to spell out, then this is meeting section 71. In this case, there is an important judgment on this is, there are two judgments I am just referring on this with the facts of thing. In one case, it is our Madras High Court judgment, Justice S.S. Subramaniam has dealt it. In this case is Suguna Boy versus Muniyamal. In this, there were 5 attesting witnesses. The propounder examined only one witness, but he could not recollect or he did not support the case of the propounder. But it went to the thing that Justice Subramaniam said, though there are 5 witnesses, you could have very well examined witness. And because of your failure to examine the other witness, and you are not able to prove the execution through the witness who was examined, then it is not a valid execution. The will was held to be invalid. Similarly, in other case, the Supreme Court has held, in the case of Janaki Narayan Boyer versus Narayan Namdev Kadam, it is decided on 17/12/2002. This is the bench of Justice D. Raju and Shivraj Patel. In this case, a claim was made by the propounder stating that the will was executed by so-and-so, and he examined one witness, attesting witness, and a scribe. The attesting witness, on coming to the box, he could not identify the testator's signature. And also he could not recollect whether the other witness was present or not. But the scribe supported the case of the propounder. He said the witness, the attestator has signed the will in the presence of the attesting witnesses. 2 witnesses were present, but the court held scribe is not an attesting witness. There are 2 witnesses available. One has failed. The other is a living witness, but you did not avail the opportunity to examine the second witness. Only through him you will have to prove it, because the first witness say whether the another witness was present or not. Section 68 say there should be 2 attesting witnesses. First witness doesn't remember having seen the second attesting witnesses. Hence, the court held that it is not a valid execution, and the suit was dismissed. In another case, that unnatural disposition, in the case of G. Lalita versus G. Ponnurangam and others, 2011 5 CTC 262. In fact, this is for me, this is an interesting case. In this case, there were 2 brothers and 2 sisters. One sister filed a suit for for getting a letter of administration in the year 1981. That is TOS number 2 of 81, based on a registered will. That is, the registered will is dated 2/6/1977. When the case was in progress, the other 2 brothers raised an objection stating that you did not include the other sister as who is a necessary party. So the sister included the other person, also include the party, and during the thing they filed a suit. The brothers filed a suit based on, which is 1968, that is 14/8/1968. They claim this is the original will. The second will is a fabricated, forged, and it is not a proper will. In this case, incidentally, that Justice Pallivel upheld the execution of both the wills, 1968 will as well as 1977 will. He said both the wills have been executed. It is proved, but He says this is an unnatural disposition in the property. In the first will, two sisters have been excluded. It is an unnatural disposition. It means that though the testator side, whether she understood the meaning of the will or not is doubtful. Similarly, in the second also, the will based on which the sister claimed, that was the same finding. It was exclusion of the brothers. There is no proper reason for excluding it. Hence, it was held that it is an unnatural disposition and no, it is not a valid disposition in this. So I'm not dwelling on many cases because there are a lot of cases available. Then important thing is in 2020, on 24/4/2020, the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Kavita Kanwar versus Pamela Mehta. This decision is on 19th May 2020. In this case, yeah, they have given a guideline. In fact, I can say that broadly they have given the guideline about how a will is to be adjudicated. Broad guideline has been given, and this is the two cases were there. One is Shivakumar and others versus Sharan Basappa and others. It was decided on 24/4/2020. The same bench decided the other case also. In this, they have drawn nearly 9 points, which is a guideline, in fact, for adjudication of the will, to understand how the will is to be executed, what is to be taken care of, everything. This is a code itself, I can say. It's an interesting judgment, which was a lengthy judgment also. These two judgments are there, but the same bench, the same decision has been given. And this is very interesting. So it is better that all these, the latest judgment is to be taken into account for adjudication of the will or understanding how to defend or support the will. I think I have come to the conclusion now. Hence, the subject of will is complicated and complex, because I thought earlier when I selected the subject, it will be very simple one, but it's a very lengthy subject of will. To a certain extent, whatever I was possible, I did it. So I thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak on the subject, which I'm not familiar with it.